All right, we're live.
Every time you say that, I just feel like pinching myself. I was so alive yesterday, you guys. I was on a boat in the middle of the Pacific, in the middle of the ocean, where we saw big, giant whales. Oh my God. They're so majestic. They're so big. This is what I mean by life. They come up and they slap the thing with their arm and they slap them and they throw their bodies around. And then we saw dolphins right behind them going, woo, woo, woo. And I just thought, and then it gets better. What we didn't expect this. We were on this beautiful, clear sailing Hawaiian day. When we got out to the ocean, it was horrible. And the waves were so big, he had to turn around. We couldn't go where we were going, but I loved it. It was me and Briggs, who works with me. She's part of our level 3. She's a double Aries. So everybody ran because it got so big, the waves, and we held on and we were just being slapped and hit. It was like the wildest. And then because we were so wild, her and I screaming and yelling when the water hit us, like we could have died. They made an announcement saying, everybody come in. And we were like, no, we want to stay out here. So there's giant waves were coming. And then the guy that was the captain of the team, his name was Chad, and his little helpers, they realized we were crazy and they liked us more because we weren't afraid, because they had to walk around. And it was so fun to be with the double Aries, better known as Briggs, who encouraged me to be crazy. Because, and then the captain said to me, I'm all wrapped up because you're soaking wet. The water comes and hits you and it slaps you and it just doesn't leave you alone. And then he said, how old are you? And I said, about to turn 63. And he was like, no, how did you do that? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, most people at your age just hide out. Well, not me. And that brings us to you two. What was the answer, Malika? Did you find the answer to that question?
Yes, but it wasn't 68. I have to look more.
It wasn't 68. It was Saturn in Pisces. Try 64. Okay, now I am here to tell you about the class we have 2 days left before the cart closes, where you can get slapped around by water and feel the effect of life, and you will be alive and you'll feel yourself come back online. It gives permission to every single age group. You study this class and your vitality comes back. So for anyone who's sitting on Sunday morning watching YouTube, or maybe it's Monday afternoon and you slipped in and you watched YouTube, you need to make sure that life is calling your name and giving you a direct experience. And that's what the class does. The class is a direct experience of yourself, using the tools of the planets and the signs and the houses to reawaken what you already knew about yourself, but you forgot because we don't have language for it. So we in our family, between Carrie and I and Malika and Milena and Sarah and Susie and all these women, we've all women in our company, we all made a commitment that we'd come back to life. So like, for example, when I met, I'm not going to use names, somebody on our team, and she was subdued or she was quiet or she didn't exercise or there's all kinds of symptoms, I was like, no, you cannot do that. So, oh, Taja, what a beautiful name. Signed up and can't wait for the 17th to start. It's going to awaken. It's going to awaken you. It's going to give you back to you. It's going to get, so if you're sitting on the fence, you YouTube people, you don't want to just watch free things. You want to invest money in yourself and say, yes, I am willing to study myself. You've got to commit to it. So I want you to know this. Hi, Kyle, Mr. Capricorn. I want you to take responsibility for your spiritual promise that you signed up for a contract. You signed a contract to get in here. And the contract was standing next to the astrologer. The last stop before you incarnate, before you take on an embryo and take on all this, they say, come with me. And they sit down and they show you the chart. It did so happen, Malika. They say, sit down. I want to show you these charts. I want to ask you what you want to learn. So let's say you said, I really want to have love this lifetime. I'm sick of being single. They go, okay, we're going to give you Venus trine Saturn. We're going to give you Venus conjunct Jupiter. We're going to give you Venus opposite the sun. No, conjunct the sun. We're going to give you Saturn sextiling Venus. We're going to give you a yod pointing to Venus. We're going to put Venus in an exalted position. Those people that organized your chart, they're super smart. Now, let's say you came in this life and you said, I really want the hard path. Like, I need to learn the lessons. Just give me one like full meal deal and I'll grit my teeth and I'll make it through. Okay, we're going to give you Saturn on the sun. We're going to give you Pluto square the sun. We're going to give you, that's what I had. God, what was I thinking? So there's ways to learn about the karmic promise that you made And then there it is, 1967. And then once you figure out the karmic promise, the whole story changes like this fast. Because if you're going uphill, let's say, like for me, for example, I had a really hard lifetime this lifetime. You can't tell, my cleavage is showing. Here, I'll fix it. Less cleavage, more shoulders. What do you think? I had a really hard lifetime this lifetime. I came with Pluto square the sun, Saturn opposite my sun, Neptune squaring my something. I never really pay attention to Neptune at 29 degrees of Libra. No, I don't think it's squaring anything. But the point is, I've got a bad Pluto. And what does that mean? The opposite, the last interview I just did that was on, what was it called? Facebook Live. It wasn't an interview, it was a monologue, because you know how I am. I talked about this man I just recently did a session for who had Pluto and Uranus conjunct the sun, born in 1967, and how eccentric and unusual his energy was. Well, I didn't have that. I had 1957 when Saturn was opposite my sun. And when I look at my chart, which is now on the fridge, do you guys know this? You can buy your chart. Is that true, Carrie? Can they buy it online on my website?
No, they have to email Gina.
Why don't we have it on the website?
I'll add it to your picks page.
I really want it on the website. Why can't we just have a dedicated page to it, Mom?
We can put it on there. Okay.
We'll talk about this later, she said. Don't talk. I thought you were going to say that to me. Deborah, talk about this later. I know, it's the coolest magnet, Malika. And do you have one, Carrie?
Yes, it's on my fridge. I love it.
It's okay. So imagine you had your whole chart on your fridge, and that's what you looked at whenever you decided to go pig out. It would help lose weight, because you look at your chart and go, oh, I made a promise. I need to stick to my promise. What was my promise? And that will make you reconsider having the chocolate cake. The soul contract. What is it? I'll tell you what it is, Kita. It's when now I don't think it's as clear as you pick your mom and dad and you pick your chart and you sit down and there's a council and they say, what would you like? Because there's 7.5 billion people. That's a lot of meetings and there's a lot of mentors to help you. That's ridiculous. But what they do, what life does do, is there's an organic law of order that happens in the spiritual world. And it's the Akashic records are one of the sources that explain this. So it may not be as simple as like they chose your parents and then, or you chose your parents and said, I want my best friend again. It may have some implications that there were characters in your story. This is a soul contract that came back into your life again with the promise to either celebrate what you cultivated in your last life, or resolve what you didn't celebrate in your last life, or acquaint yourself with some karmic pattern that happened that you need to pay a debt for. I think some of you know this, that I have a friend named Kenny. It's in my book, The Missing Element. And he was in prison for 27 years. And for some reason, we became pen pals way back. And for 13 years, every Monday morning, I'd write him a note. And then I kept writing these notes saying, don't give up, don't give up. And then I was telling the story one day to some wealthy client of mine, and she said, you know what? Why don't you get the best lawyer in all of California and just see if we can get him out? I said, and she said, I'll pay for it. So I gathered all this money and I got the best lawyer in California. And then I got Kenny, with assistance of 3 other angels and me, we got Kenny out of the prison, out of San Quentin. And he is now free. And it was his birthday yesterday or the day before. He's 63 years old. And the point of that story is we had a soul contract. Like somehow, whatever the karma was, and I always tell him, what's he going to do for me next life? It's so obnoxious. Somewhere in some past life, I was his best friend, or maybe he was my best friend. We have such a crazy connection, he and I. So this lifetime, I got him out of prison. And it was not an easy feat because he was in for life. And he was Black. And he is Black. And he was misproperly sentenced. And it was all wrong. But the point of that story, the answer to the question that was posed was Misty Baker. I love him too. The soul contract. What was the soul contract that I had with him? Well, you have soul contracts, you guys. I'm having a deja vu. Oh my God, this is weird. Deja vu, live time with you here in YouTube land. What do you think about that, kids? Back to the story. So Kenny and I had a contract. It's so far beyond the understanding of my mind. And thank you so much, Tajia. She said she read The Missing Element and she wishes everybody would read it. and that she's read it multiple times because it's the story. Yeah, exactly, Malika. Oh my God. It's the story of soul contracts. Every story is water, air, earth, and fire. And each story describes the mastery of an element. So for water, believe it or not, it was a fireman in New York City who dealt with 9/11 because he was there the day it happened. In air, it was the freedom, take a deep breath. Air is freedom of getting someone out of prison. In earth, it's a story, my favorite story of my friends who own a lumber yard. And in fire, it's the story of earthbound farms, two people that never understood agriculture at all and had the biggest organic farm in the world. So it's 4 different stories of people that have mastered the element. But I think Malika's right. We, on my team, the people that you're going to study with in the astrology class, we have a contract. There's 10 of us on the inside circle, and then there's an additional, I want to say, how many mentors are there altogether, Malika? Is there 20?
We have 24.
24. So we have 34 employees that work for me, and they're all women, except for one. And the point of that story is we have contracts. Definitely, Malika. Like Malika, you and I, and Misty, and Carrie, and Destiny, and Ashley, and Sarah, and I just keep saying Sarah's are all, but these are like Sarah Lahar. I knew when Daniel was 2 years old, 24 years ago. Who knew she wasn't an astrologer. She learned from us. The missing element is fabulous. Learned so much in Deborah's school. Thank you so much. So you 2 people that are watching this who have never heard of me or you're flirting with me, the course is only open twice a year, in September and in January, the launch. It starts in February, it starts in September. The launch is right now. We have 2 more days of it. I brushed my hair and I washed my hair for you. And I put on this brand new cool turquoise necklace and the matching earrings. And I think you should all come. And yes, like some of you and I, like we have karma together. You wouldn't be watching this YouTube video live time if you didn't have some relationship with the karma that I carry, which is not Deborah Silverman. It's Luciella. That's the name of our company. Luce is light. Ciela is heavens. It's light of the heavens. We are operating under the influence of the light of the heavens by Luciella. Carrie works for us. Misty works for us. Malika works for us. Name dropper. Okay, so this was all to say the card is only open twice a year. It's $1,000 for the class. It's 6 weeks long. You go online, your chart comes up, you study your own charts, not theory. You take your own chart and you learn all about how silly you are, how fun you are, how miserable you are, how depressed your chart is, how exciting your chart is, how gain weighting your chart is, how gain losing. I mean, everybody's, come on. Everybody's exactly as they should be. What do you think this long hair do? I'm getting it cut. It's a little over the top, don't you think? Okay, Carrie, Misty, Malika, Susie, Monsters. Anybody out there want to say anything?
I put the link for Applied Astrology in the comments, and there are 2 days left. So we are coming down to the end.
And we have enough people in this group that you will have a community. Let's not leave that out. You're like, just like I'm looking at the names, like Carl Stutter. Why do I know his name? Because he's in our school. Misty Baker, I seem to know that name. Jolene, these are people that are, because after a while, Jasmine and Nikki, we start to get used to you guys because we have a family, and you can see that I'm the head of the family. I'm crazy. If you're crazy, you're welcome. We don't judge. No. The stars don't judge. I shouldn't drink in the morning. Speaking of drinking, I have this beet red juice that I'm going to take as soon as I get to Instagram. When I get to Instagram, I'm going to have funny little outfits on. I'm going to put on eyelashes, a little thing on my nose.
All right. Thanks, everyone on YouTube. We're going to go over to Instagram now.